Today's episode of the More You Know podcast is brought to you by Crowdfunding, a brand new social communication platform focused on connecting crowds to bring everyone closer to their community, as well as enhancing any occasion. Rather than being a social media platform focused on content and advertising, they're focused on communication and connection. Learn more about the platform and download the app free at crowdfunding.com. Today's episode of the More You Know podcast features Brandon T. Adams, who's an Emmy Award Winning producer, podcaster, speaker, author, and serial entrepreneur. Known as the King of Crowdfunding, helping clients including Kevin Harrington and John Lee Dumas, as well as Brandon Steiner, who's a legendary sports marketer and entrepreneur, who founded Steiner Sports, working with incredible athletes such as Derek Jeter and Mariano Rivera, as well as a speaker, author, and host of The Hookup. And lastly, Chris Westfall, who's a motivational speaker, author, and entrepreneur, best known as the National Elevator Pitch Champion. I asked each of them what their best piece of branding advice is. Enjoy the episode.
I'm just trying to make it all make sense.
The
More
You
Know
Podcast.
First question is, what is your best piece of advice for branding? Your branding advice. Well, branding is who you are, what you stand for, what you put out to the world, what you do on a regular basis. I believe the best way to build your brand, I have this step formula in this acronym called BRAND. So B is for books and blogs, R is for recording video content, A is audio, speaking, podcasting, N is networking, and D is delivering value. First, books, blogs. Writing a book is a great way to establish yourself as an expert. And when you write a book on your area of expertise, what that does is it shows you as an expert. One of the first books that I wrote over here is Keys to the Crowd, Unlocking the Power of Crowdfunding. I did this in 2015. It was a book that showed me as a crowdfunding expert in my space. Since then, I have wrote other books and co-authored books, but that was my one book that I did to build my brand and establish myself as an expert in crowdfunding back in the day when I did crowdfunding. Writing blogs on a regular basis helps establish you as an expert. The next one is recording video content. That's the best one I believe you can do. When you constantly record video content and put it out into the world on specific platforms such as Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter, other platforms, YouTube, and you put out regular video content sharing your knowledge and your expertise and showing your life, you're building your brand. So recording video content would be, I think, my number one advice in terms of what to do to build your brand. The next one is for audio, that's speaking and podcasting. When you speak at events, you establish yourself as an expert. When you speak on a certain topic, there's the power of being on a stage. When you have your own podcast show. I've launched 3 podcast shows now. I have one that's over 400 episodes. And when you interview other people, you become associated with those people, and that helps build your brand. It builds your association. So podcasting is a great way. The next one is networking. When you put on your own events or you go to different events, you meet other people and you build up your network. Your network is your net worth. The more people you surround yourself with that are doing things at a high level, the closer you're going to get there. But also when you put on your own events, the people that you bring in to speak at your events helps build your brand. So networking and putting on events is a great way. The last one I have in the brand formula is delivering value. When you deliver massive value to people, they will reciprocate. They will do something for you in return. When you deliver value to the right people, when you deliver value to your audience, to your customers, to your mentors, it'll elevate your business. It'll build your brand. It'll allow you to get more opportunities from delivering massive value.
What is your best piece of branding advice?
The most important thing I think in branding is to know who your customer is, know what the most important things to your company, what are the core values, and stick with them. Don't deviate, don't move aside, don't compromise. And secondly, stand behind your brand, behind the people that matter to you the most, every day of the week and twice on Sunday. So when you have a customer service problem and it's a little gray, and you got to take a loss or if something goes wrong, you got to step up and do the right thing. Your brand is your reputation, and your reputation is something that's going to live with you forever and ever. So every day you got to live your brand. It's not a choice, a business choice, it's a life choice. When you're building your brand, it's something you're thinking about and living every day. From the colors of your logo, how your people dress and how that brand is presented on stationery, whether it's how your website looks, how your office looks, All that stuff is all the integral parts of your brand. But the most important thing to remember is what is your brand, how it relates to your customer. And you got to make sure you know who your customer is so your brand matches up to who your customer is and you have a clear understanding. The best way to convey your brand is by telling the absolute truth and by being yourself, being what your company really is and communicating that on a daily basis. When you can do that consistently, people are going to fall in love with your brand. And once that happens, you're going to be able to be in business a long time.
Well, in order to answer that, you gotta take a look at what a brand really is. When you think of a brand, of course, a brand is something that you put on a cow. A brand is, well, it's a lot of things, but for me, a brand is a promise delivered. Because branding, it's not about what you say about your brand, right? It's not about broadcasting. Branding today is a conversation. So your brand is what others say about you. And if you want your brand to be powerful and sincere and authentic and compelling, ask yourself this question: what's the biggest promise you can keep?
What's an elevator pitch? What should it be?
An elevator pitch is a persuasive conversation. So it's not really a pitch. It's an opportunity for dialogue, because that's what people want today. They want a conversation. They want to be able to comment and give feedback. And so the new elevator pitch, that's what I call it, the new elevator pitch really gives you an opportunity to persuade. So anytime you want to persuade and influence, maybe that's your boss, maybe it's an investor, maybe it's your wife or your husband, anytime you want to be persuasive, that's when an elevator pitch comes in handy.
So I think, and it's worth underscoring there, people might tune out when they hear the phrase, well, I'm not an entrepreneur. That's not what I do. I don't need to worry about this. But you're saying it's a universal thing.
It is, because persuasion and influence is all around us. So you don't necessarily have to have a business idea. You just have to have a good idea that you want to get other people enrolled in, you want to get other people engaged in. So how do you do it? The answer is you've got to have an elevator pitch.
Okay, so elevator pitches are what, 30, 45 seconds, something like that?
Well, it depends. I mean, I like to say that that's a slogan. It's
not a conversation.
No, it's
at
not.
That length.
It's not. And you need a little bit more time to let people know what it is that you're on about, especially if it's a business idea.
So throw a couple of ideas out there, maybe things people do naturally, and then when they get into that situation that they walk away from that might help them, or something that you see all the time happening, like, that's not as helpful as you think it might be.
The biggest thing that I see is people, when they want to focus on their ideas, they focus on themselves rather than the people that they want to influence. And when you shift and think about the person that you're talking to and what your idea means to them, now you can create a powerful conversation. But a lot of folks, and this is true of the entrepreneurs that I work with all over the country, all over the world, they focus on telling their own story. Hey, here's how I make the sausage. Nobody cares. Yeah. It's about what
sausage tastes.
Exactly. And so creating that and sharing that vision is what's most powerful. So for folks that are watching, they're saying, what's a tip that I can use? Think about the outcome for the person you're talking to, and that will help you to influence.
Sounds an awful lot like the start of a relationship there.
It can be. I mean, if you want to get a job, you want to get an investor, or you just want to get a date, you've got to have a good elevator pitch.
We're in a social media world. And in some ways, it seems perfectly set up for elevator pitches. On the other hand, it kind of cuts that conversation part out if it's not done right.
Well, I would say that the online conversation is still a conversation, and you've got to have a message that cuts through the noise. I mean, we're bombarded by Instagram and Twitter and all these different sources of information. How do you get people's attention? And the answer is you have to take the time, if your message is really important, to get some clarity around that and to find the thing that I find that's most compelling in the midst of all the noise is conviction. Being able to really speak about what it is that you know that's true, phrased in terms of what you can do for the person you're talking to.
Believing in it, it's a good launching point.
Yeah, believing in it. You've got to start there.
All right, well, time is short. How can folks reach you? Social media the best way?
Social media is the best way. You can find me online. My website is westfallonline.com, and my last name is like the direction and the season, westfallonline.com. My YouTube channel has over 1.5 million video views. That's youtube.com/westfallonline.
You heard that. You got to know wow from Lauren when you said the 1.5 million views. That's good. Chris, thanks for the wisdom today. Best of luck in your business endeavors.
Pleasure.
As well.
Thanks for having me on Wish TV. I appreciate it.
You bet. It is 9:29 right now.
Because a brand is a promise delivered.
trying to make it all make sense.
The
More
You
No
Podcast.